Las Vegas, March 10th, 1975. Elvis received a letter from a 7-year-old boy with terminal leukemia asking if Elvis could sing at his birthday party on March 15th. Elvis had a sold-out concert scheduled that same night worth $100,000. What Elvis did next shocked his entire team and reminded the world what really matters in life. Subscribe to Elvis Presley Legacy Stories for moments when the King showed us that some things are more valuable than money or fame. The letter arrived at Graceland on March 8, 1975, forwarded from Elvis's management office in Los Angeles. It was written in a child's handwriting on lined notebook paper with crayon drawings in the margins. Dear Mr. Elvis Presley, my name is Timothy Walsh and I am 7 years old. I have leukemia and the doctors say I probably won't live to be 8. My birthday is March 15th and my mom said I could have one birthday wish. I wish you could come sing at my party. I know you're very busy and probably can't come, but my mom said it doesn't hurt to ask. Your biggest fan, Timothy. The letter included a photo of Timothy, a thin, pale child with no hair from chemotherapy, wearing an Elvis t-shirt 3 sizes too big, smiling at the camera with missing front teeth. Elvis's secretary brought the letter to him that afternoon, along with dozens of other fan letters. Elvis read it once, then again, then sat quietly for a long moment staring at Timothy's photo. But what Elvis didn't know yet was, this decision would force him to choose between a massive payday and a dying child's birthday wish. Elvis called his manager, Colonel Parker, immediately. Colonel, I need to cancel the March 15th show in Vegas. There was silence on the other end. Then, Elvis, that's a sold-out show. We're talking about $100,000 in ticket sales, not counting concessions and the casino take. We can't just cancel. I got a letter from a 7-year-old kid with leukemia. He's dying, Colonel. He wants me to sing at his birthday party on March 15th. That's the same night as the Vegas show. Wait until you see what happened next. Elvis, we get letters like this every day, Colonel Parker said carefully. If we responded to every one, you'd never perform anywhere. Send the kid an autographed photo and some money. That's what we always do. This is different. How is it different? Because I'm going to do it. I'm going to that kid's birthday party. Colonel Parker tried every argument. The financial loss, the breach of contract with the International Hotel, the thousands of fans who had bought tickets, the precedent it would set, the logistics of finding Timothy and arranging everything in just 1 week. Elvis listened to all of it, then said simply, Colonel, if you can't figure out how to make this work, I'll figure it out myself. But I'm going to that birthday party. End of discussion. You haven't seen the Santa. Biggest surprise yet. Finding Timothy, Elvis had his team start making calls immediately. The return address on the letter was in Phoenix, Arizona. Within hours, they had located the Walsh family and confirmed that Timothy was indeed a 7-year-old terminal leukemia patient being treated at Phoenix Children's Hospital. When Elvis's people called the family to ask if the offer was genuine, Timothy's mother, Patricia Walsh, broke down crying. I told Timothy not to get his hopes up. I never thought, is this really happening? Ma'am, Elvis Presley wants to come to your son's birthday party. When and where would you like him there? Patricia explained that Timothy was currently hospitalized for another round of treatment, too weak to leave the hospital. His 7th birthday would likely be spent in a hospital room, just like his 6th birthday had been. Then, that's where Elvis will be, came the response. Don't miss this crucial detail. Meanwhile, Elvis was dealing with the fallout from the cancellation. The International Hotel threatened to sue. Colonel Parker was furious about the financial loss. Other performers and industry insiders questioned Elvis's professionalism, but Elvis didn't waver. I make money every night, he told Joe Esposito. I can make that $100,000 back in 2 more shows. But Timothy Walsh is only going to have 1 more birthday, maybe his last birthday. That's not negotiable. The hotel eventually agreed to reschedule the show for a week later, though they imposed financial penalties. Elvis paid them without complaint. The 2,000 ticket holders were offered refunds or tickets to the rescheduled show. Most chose to keep their tickets, and many sent letters to Elvis supporting his decision. What you're about to witness will blow your mind. The journey to Phoenix. On March 15th, Elvis chartered a private plane to Phoenix, bringing with him his full band, sound equipment, and several members of his team. He also brought gifts, toys, games, a child-sized version of one of his jumpsuits, and a custom guitar with Timothy's name engraved on it. If we're doing a birthday party, we're doing it right, Elvis said. When they arrived at Phoenix Children's Hospital, Elvis insisted on setting up in the pediatric ward's common room rather than just Timothy's room. If there are other sick kids here, they should get to hear the music too, Elvis explained. The hospital staff worked with Elvis's team to arrange the space. They brought in as many children as were well enough to attend, setting up wheelchairs and hospital beds in the common room. Word spread through the hospital, and nurses, doctors, and other staff members crowded into doorways and hallways, wanting to witness this unprecedented event. Think about this: if you had to choose between $100,000 and making a dying child's wish come true, which would you choose? What does your answer say about what you truly value? That's when the real magic began. Timothy meets Elvis. Elvis went to Timothy's room first before the party started. Timothy was lying in bed, hooked up to various medical equipment, looking even thinner and paler than in his photo. When Elvis walked in wearing one of his iconic jumpsuits, Timothy's eyes went wide. "Are you real?" Timothy whispered. Elvis sat on the edge of the bed and took Timothy's small hand in his. "I'm real, buddy, and I'm here for your birthday party." Timothy started crying. "I didn't think you'd really come. Mom said not to get my hopes up. Your mom was just trying to protect you from disappointment, but here I am. Happy 7th birthday, Timothy." Elvis spent 20 minutes with Timothy privately, talking about music, asking about Timothy's favorite songs, and promising him the best birthday party ever. He helped Timothy into a wheelchair and personally pushed him to the common room where the other children were waiting. Hold on. This story has an incredible continuation. The birthday concert. What happened next was, by all accounts, one of the most emotionally powerful performances of Elvis's career. He performed for 30 sick children, their families, and the hospital staff in a common room that was never designed for concerts. Elvis sang "Happy Birthday" to Timothy, leading everyone in the room in singing along. He performed "Hound Dog," "Jailhouse Rock," and other upbeat songs that got the kids clapping and singing despite their illnesses. He slowed things down with "Love Me Tender" and "Can't Help Falling in Love," songs that brought tears to every adult in the room. Between songs, Elvis talked to the children, asked them questions, made them laugh. He treated them not as sick kids to be pitied, but as his audience, the most important audience he'd ever had. You need to know this incredible detail. At one point, Elvis brought Timothy up to stand next to him, held up by nurses, as Timothy was too weak to stand alone. Elvis gave Timothy the microphone and let him sing along to "Don't Be Cruel." Timothy's voice was weak and off-key, but Elvis sang backup for him, making Timothy the star of that moment. The children in that room, many of whom would not live to see another birthday, forgot about their pain for those 2 hours. Parents who had been carrying unbearable grief found themselves laughing and clapping. Nurses who had cried themselves to sleep over these children felt joy for the first time in months. "It was the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed," said Dr. Sarah Martinez, the attending physician. Elvis gave those children something more valuable than medicine. He gave them happiness, normalcy, and the feeling of being special rather than sick. But the most touching moment was still to come. After the concert, Elvis spent another hour with Timothy privately. They talked about Timothy's life, his fears, his hopes. Timothy, with the brutal honesty that sometimes comes with terminal illness, told Elvis he was scared of dying. Elvis held Timothy's hand and spoke with a depth of emotion that those present never forgot. "Timothy, I can't tell you that you won't die. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you that you've lived more fully in 7 years than some people do in 70. You've been brave, you've been strong, you've brought joy to your parents and to everyone who knows you. But I won't get to grow up," Timothy said. "I won't get to be like you." "Maybe not in the way you're thinking," Elvis replied. "But Timothy, you've already done something incredible. You've shown everyone around you what courage looks like. You've loved your family even when you were in pain. You've kept smiling even when you had every reason to cry. That's not just being like me, that's being better than me. Wait until you hear what happened after." Elvis made Timothy a promise that day. "I'm going to visit you as often as I can, and every time I perform Love Me Tender, I'm going to think of you. You're going to be part of every show I do from now on." Elvis kept that promise. Over the next 7 months, he visited Timothy 5 more times, always flying to Phoenix between tours, always bringing gifts and spending hours with the boy. He paid all of Timothy's medical bills that insurance didn't cover. He set up a trust fund for Timothy's younger sister's education. Most importantly, Elvis gave Timothy and his family time, his most valuable commodity. Time to talk, to laugh, to create memories that would have to last after Timothy was gone. Timothy Walsh lived for 7 more months after his birthday party, far longer than doctors had predicted. His mother later credited Elvis's visits with giving Timothy a reason to fight. "Every time Elvis visited, Timothy would rally," Patricia Walsh said. "He'd have more energy, more hope. The doctors couldn't explain it medically, but I knew. Elvis gave Timothy something to live for. He made Timothy feel important, special, loved by someone outside our family." Elvis called Timothy every week when he couldn't visit in person. He sent cards and letters. He had his chef make Timothy's favorite foods and ship them to Phoenix. He treated Timothy not as a charity case, but as a friend. In October 1975, Timothy's condition deteriorated rapidly. Elvis was in the middle of a tour, but when he got the call that Timothy had days left, he canceled 2 shows and flew immediately to Phoenix. Incredible revelation coming up. Elvis spent the last 3 days of Timothy's life at his bedside, reading to him, singing to him, holding his hand. When Timothy became too weak to speak, Elvis would sing "Love Me Tender" softly over and over, just like Timothy's mother had mentioned was his favorite song. Timothy Walsh died on October 8, 1975, with his mother on one side and Elvis Presley on the other. He was 7 years and 7 months old. At Timothy's funeral, Elvis sang "How Great Thou Art," his voice breaking with emotion. He told the gathered mourners, "Timothy taught me more about courage and living fully than I could ever teach him about music. He made me a better person. I'm honored that I got to know him." Elvis's decision to cancel a $100,000 concert for a dying child's birthday party sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. It sparked conversations about celebrity responsibility, the value of human connection versus financial gain, and what it means to use fame for good. Several other celebrities began reaching out to organizations that worked with terminally ill children, offering their time and presence. The Make-A-Wish Foundation, which had been founded in 1980, later cited Elvis's actions with Timothy as an inspiration for their mission. Elvis showed that granting wishes to sick children wasn't just about charity. It was about recognizing their humanity and worth, said Make-A-Wish founder Frank Shankwitz. He demonstrated that these children deserved more than medical care. They deserved joy, experiences, and the feeling of being important. If every person in a position to help someone made the choice Elvis made, prioritizing human need over financial gain, how would our world be different? What small version of this choice might you face in your own life? Let's be clear about what Elvis sacrificed. The canceled Vegas show cost him $100,000 in direct revenue. The penalties paid to the hotel added another $25,000. The chartered flights to Phoenix, the band's time, the equipment transport. All told, Elvis spent approximately $150,000 on Timothy's birthday party. That's equivalent to about $850,000 in today's money. Elvis essentially spent nearly $1 million to attend a 7-year-old's birthday party. When reporters asked him about it after Timothy's death, Elvis's response was simple. "I made that money back in 2 weeks. I can never get back the time I spent with Timothy. Which one was more valuable?" Colonel Parker never forgave Elvis for the decision, seeing it as financially irresponsible. But Elvis never regretted it. "That birthday party was more important than any concert I ever gave," Elvis said in a 1976 interview. "Those 2 hours with Timothy and those other sick kids, that was my best performance ever." Wait until you hear what happened after. After Timothy's death, Patricia Walsh struggled with overwhelming grief, but she found purpose in honoring her son's memory and Elvis's generosity. In 1978, Patricia established the Timothy's Wish Foundation, which worked to grant wishes for terminally ill children in Arizona. The foundation was modeled after what Elvis had done for Timothy, not just sending celebrities or gifts, but creating genuine experiences that made children feel valued and special. Over the next 40 years, Timothy's Wish Foundation granted over 5,000 wishes to children with life-threatening illnesses. Every child who received a wish was told Timothy's story and shown photos from that birthday party at the hospital. "Timothy's legacy isn't tragedy," Patricia said at the foundation's 25th anniversary. "His legacy is that he taught us, through Elvis's example, that every child's life matters, every moment matters, and that the greatest gift we can give is our time and attention." Patricia Walsh passed away in 2019, but the foundation continues under new leadership, still using Elvis and Timothy's story as inspiration for its mission. Phoenix Children's Hospital underwent significant changes after Elvis's visit. The administration realized that the emotional and psychological needs of sick children were as important as their medical care. They created a music therapy program, partially funded by a donation from Elvis before his death. They redesigned patient spaces to accommodate performances and special events. They developed protocols for celebrity visits and wish fulfillment that prioritized patient experience. Dr. Sarah Martinez, who witnessed Elvis's performance, became a leading advocate for holistic pediatric care. What Elvis did for Timothy showed us that healing isn't just about treating disease, it's about treating the whole person, including their emotional and spiritual needs. The common room where Elvis performed was renovated and renamed Timothy's Room in 1977. It's now a space where children can play, families can gather, and occasionally performers come to entertain, sick children, carrying on what Elvis started, what we can learn. The story of Elvis and Timothy Walsh teaches us profound lessons about values, priorities, and what it means to live a meaningful life. First, it reminds us that some things, like a dying child's happiness, are more valuable than money, regardless of the amount. Second, it demonstrates that true generosity isn't just about giving money, but giving time, attention, and genuine connection. Elvis could have sent Timothy an autographed photo and a check. Instead, he gave him experiences, memories, and the feeling of being important. Third, it shows us that the impact of our choices ripples outward in ways we can't predict. Elvis's decision to honor one child's birthday wish inspired an entire foundation that has helped thousands of children over decades. How many opportunities do we miss to prioritize people over profit, connection over convenience, meaning over money? What would our lives look like if we made decisions based on what we'd want to be remembered for, rather than what seems practical or profitable? Nearly 50 years later, people still talk about the time Elvis canceled a $100,000 concert to attend a dying 7-year-old's birthday party. It wasn't his biggest show or most famous performance, but it was perhaps his most important act, a demonstration that true greatness is measured by what we're willing to sacrifice for others, not by what we're able to accumulate for ourselves. In a world that often measures success by wealth and fame, this story reminds us that the most meaningful moments come from putting people before profit, from recognizing that every life, especially a child's life, is infinitely valuable. Timothy Walsh got 7 more months after that birthday party. 7 months filled with visits from his hero. 7 months of feeling special and loved. 7 months of memories his family still treasures. Would those 7 months have been the same without Elvis's choice to show up? We'll never know. But we do know that Elvis's choice to prioritize one child's wish over $100,000 created ripples that helped thousands of other children find joy in their darkest moments. That's why this story matters. It reminds us that we all face versions of this choice, between what's profitable and what's right, between what's convenient and what's meaningful, between what serves us and what serves others. And our choices, like Elvis's, can create ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. Elvis's decision to cancel a major concert for a child's birthday party sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Many performers publicly praised the decision, while others privately criticized it as setting an impossible standard that would lead to endless demands from sick children and their families. Frank Sinatra, who had his own complicated relationship with Elvis, sent him a telegram. "You did the right thing, kid. Money comes and goes. Character is forever." Other celebrities began following Elvis's example in their own ways. Johnny Cash started making regular visits to children's hospitals. Anne Margaret, who had co-starred with Elvis in Viva Las Vegas, began funding medical treatments for children with cancer. The ripple effect of Elvis's choice extended throughout Hollywood and beyond. Entertainment venues also began reassessing their policies. The International Hotel, despite initially threatening to sue, eventually established a compassion clause in their contracts, allowing performers to cancel shows for verified family emergencies or humanitarian reasons without financial penalty. Other venues adopted similar policies, citing Elvis's example as the catalyst. "Elvis proved that there are moments when being human is more important than being professional," said one venue manager. "We had to acknowledge that in our contracts." Doctors and nurses who worked with terminally ill children took particular notice of what Elvis had done. Many reported that their young patients became more engaged in treatment, more hopeful about their remaining time after hearing Timothy's story. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the renowned psychiatrist who pioneered research on death and dying, wrote about Elvis's actions in her 1977 book. What Mr. Presley did for Timothy Walsh demonstrates a profound understanding of what dying children need most. Not pity, but recognition that their lives matter, that they are valuable beyond their illness, that they deserve joy and celebration. Several medical schools began incorporating the Elvis Timothy story into their curricula as an example of holistic patient care. Pediatric oncology programs used it to teach residents about the psychological and emotional dimensions of treating terminally ill children. The concept of quality of life for terminally ill children gained more attention in medical circles following Elvis's very public prioritization of Timothy's birthday over a lucrative concert. Research funding increased for palliative care programs focusing on making children's remaining time as joyful and meaningful as possible. Those close to Elvis noted that Timothy's death affected him profoundly. He became more contemplative about his own mortality. more intentional about how he spent his time, and more focused on creating meaningful connections rather than just accumulating wealth and fame. After Timothy died, Elvis talked a lot about legacy, recalled Charlie Hodge. Not his musical legacy, but his human legacy. He wanted to be remembered as someone who cared about people, especially the vulnerable ones. Elvis began dedicating more time to charitable work, though he typically kept it private. He funded medical treatments for numerous other children, visited hospitals regularly, and used his influence to raise awareness about childhood cancer research. In one of his final interviews before his death in 1977, Elvis was asked what accomplishment he was most proud of. He didn't mention his music, his movies, or his fame. He said, "I'm proud that I got to know Timothy Walsh. I'm proud that I was there for his last birthday. That matters more to me than any gold record." The story of Elvis canceling a $100,000 concert for Timothy's birthday became a cultural touchstone, referenced in discussions about celebrity responsibility, the value of human life versus financial gain, and what it means to live with integrity. Teachers used the story in ethics classes to spark discussions about moral decision-making. Business people referenced it in conversations about corporate social responsibility. Parents told it to their children as an example of putting people before profit. The phrase, "pulling an Elvis," briefly entered the cultural lexicon, meaning to sacrifice financial gain for humanitarian reasons. While the phrase didn't last, the concept it represented became part of how society evaluated celebrity behavior. Timothy's younger sister, Maria Walsh, was only 3 years old when her brother died. She grew up hearing the story of Elvis's generosity and how it had given Timothy joy in his final months. Maria became a pediatric oncologist, dedicating her life to treating children with the same disease that took her brother. "I became a doctor because of what Elvis did for Timothy," she said. "He showed our family that Timothy's life had value, that his happiness mattered even when we knew we couldn't save him. I wanted to give that same gift to other families, not just medical treatment, but recognition that every child's life is precious and deserves to be filled with as much joy as possible." Maria has treated over 3,000 children with cancer during her 40-year career. In her office, she displays a photo of Elvis with Timothy at that birthday party. "Every family that comes to her sees it and hears the story. That photo reminds my patients and their families that even in the darkest times there can be moments of pure joy," Maria explains. "It reminds them that their child's life matters, that celebrating the time they have is just as important as fighting for more time." That March day in 1975, Elvis Presley proved that being the king of rock and roll meant nothing compared to being present for a dying child's birthday. He showed us that money can be made back, but moments with people we care about are irreplaceable, that fame is worthless if we don't use it to make someone's life better, that true success is measured by the lives we touch, not the wealth we accumulate. Timothy Walsh got to spend his 7th birthday with his hero because Elvis understood something that many never grasp, that some things are more valuable than any amount of money. If this story moved you, ask yourself, what would I be willing to sacrifice to make a difference in someone's life? What choice am I facing right now where I could prioritize people over profit, meaning over money? Subscribe to Elvis Presley Legacy Stories to discover more moments when the king showed us that true royalty means serving others, especially the most vulnerable among us. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that the most important choices we make are the ones where we choose people over everything else, because that's what real kings do.